Hello everyone, I'm RSV, and this is my guide to TMG Gunner. We're first going to start off the skill tree this time. Gunner revolves around the mechanic of Chain Trigger. Chain Trigger is a mechanic. When you charge up a PA, you start to build up a gauge. You do not want to charge up another PA to expend the Chain Trigger until your Chain Trigger is at 100%. There are a few tricks you can do with Chain Trigger to optimize your damage, but I'll get into that later. You want to spec into Chain Trigger Quick Reload. After Chain Finisher boost has triggered, depending on the size of the chain during Chain Trigger, the reuse time will be shortened. This is part of the reason why you want to max out your Chain Trigger, as not only do you get more damage out of it, but reuse Chain Trigger almost immediately. Chain Boost. For a set time after Chain Finisher boost has triggered, weapon actions will change, and attack speed will increase depending on the size of chain. As it says, your attack speed will increase depending on the size of the chain, capping out at 110% attack speed. Simply put, Chain Boost increases your attack speed depending on how much chain you get. This just enforces getting above 100% chain trigger, as it just makes you more powerful. And the effect duration lasts 45 seconds. You can easily get a chain trigger off every 45 seconds. Chain Boost Advanced. During a Chain Boost, your weapon action's invulnerability is extended. Successful dodges using your weapon action extend the duration of your Chain Boost. This is just sustain for Chain Boost if you can't maintain a Chain Trigger expenditure. It's not really important in my opinion, but I took it anyway because there are moments where it's easier to dodge than it is to get a Chain Trigger off because of intermissions or etc. And keeping that bonus can be really handy. Stylish Roll Up. While weapon action is active, pressing the PA button will consume PA to perform a high potency attack. This is just another PA that you have access to essentially. When you try to use a PA during your Stylish Roll, instead of using the PA, you'll just send out an attack. You can use this as a substitute to burn PP if your PP is capped out, if you're trying to do DPS, but you're in a phase where there's just a lot to dodge and a lot going on. Stylish Roll Strike Back. After a successful dodge with a weapon action, the first twin machine gun photon art you will use will consume more PP, but also have increased potency. This is a huge potency increase, and on top of Chain Trigger is insane. You can't always do this, but it is a reliable way to increase your damage, and there is a lot that you can easily dodge as a gunner because Stylish Roll is a really strong dodging ability. Strike Back Advanced. After a successful dodge using a weapon action, the next photon art you will use will grant an invulnerability period. This is handy. It just means that you essentially have the ability to power through any attack that's coming at you and you won't take damage from it during that period. It's essentially giving you a dodge frame on a PA, which is pretty strong. Stylish Onslaught. Performing weapon actions without any directional input will turn it into an advancing rush. I personally do not like this. I'd much rather just use the normal Stylish Roll and use the PA or basic attack with Stylish Roll to recover PP. I will be removing Stylish Onslaught when I use a skill tree reset because this also reduces the amount of iframes you get from your Stylish Roll, and that can kill you. Rising Dive. Adjust the right timing after performing a weapon action. Pressing the normal attack will cause you to rise while attacking. Now, on paper, this sounds amazing. However, it doesn't actually cause you to rise, it's just a neutral position increase. Therefore, it ends up being useless because with slow landing attack gunner and slow landing charge gunner, you basically don't fall while attacking, period. So, Rising Dive ends up being a waste of a skill point as it doesn't actually give you air. This is a flop of an ability. Other points to invest are in PP attack recovery. This you want to max out. It is very, very strong, increasing your PP recovery by 30% and 20% as a subclass. Overwhelm increases PP recovery when attacking enemies other than bosses. This is good too, especially if there's a lot of enemies that are crash mobs in your boss fight. Not that there is a case of that at the moment, but out in the wild or in rank 2 areas, this can be very strong. Dodge PP gain. A successful dodge using sidestep or a twin machine gun weapon action recovers PP. This is just more PP, and a lot of PP. So in essence, if I was to change this skill tree, the only essence that I would do is I would get rid of Spread Shot, Quick Getaway, Rising Dive, and Stylish Onslaught, and put all those points into Overwhelm. Stylish Onslaught does what Overwhelm does, in my opinion. Rising Dive is covered by Slow Landing Attack and Slow Landing Charge, and Spread Shot and Spread Shot Quick Getaway are just useless. Okay, so now let's go into Gunner PAs. First off, we'll start off with the normal attack. The normal attack has two variants, one during Stylish and one not during Stylish. Both of them recover PP. Both of them attack 3 times. The difference between them is that the normal attack will attack faster. But while in Stylish, every Stylish normal attack will recover more PP, and on top of that you'll have iframes, and it's just more useful to use really. It will also help keep you airborne more so if you use Stylish over just normal attacking, as Stylish just has better air potential. In normal attack, you also have your step counter, slide attack, and downward slam attack. These exist in every weapon though, and can be used situationally. The slide attack for Gunner and downward slam can be particularly useful, as Gunner wants to be very close range with things. Bullet Rave is your bread and butter for Gunner. This PA has 2 variants, a harder hitting charged version which will trigger Chain Trigger, and a non-charged variant that does the exact same thing that just hits a little weaker. The goal of Gunner is to build up your Chain Trigger. This PA will help you do that. It also does a sizable amount of damage. You can just rotate Bullet Rave and be fine against a single target. Bullet Rave has several fast attacks and then a single hard-hitting attack at the end, which gives you 3 points of Chain Trigger. Aimless Rain is your AoE option as a Gunner. Now, unlike other AoEs in the game, Aimless Rain also has the Chain Trigger version and the non-Chain Trigger version to build up Chain Trigger. The charged version of Aimless Rain will, of course, start and end your Chain Trigger. The non-charged version will spray enemies around you and will accumulate with a harder hitting single attack. Aimless Rain will build your Chain Trigger per enemy it hits. So, if there are enough enemies, you can build up your entire Chain Trigger bar in a single Aimless Rain. Point Blank is more utility than it is for actual rotational purposes. You can use it to quickly expend your Chain Trigger if you are in the need. The PA itself is actually not that useful for damage, as it does not build up your Chain Trigger fast enough. You can use it to get a little bit extra damage on a down target. As for Quick Burst during the downtime of Chain Trigger, it is a viable damaging PA. You are honestly better at just using Stylish to recover your PP during that duration though, as the goal of Gunner is not to dump, it is to have a sustained rotation. And ultimately, using Point Blank to just get out a bit of temporary damage can hurt your damage in the future, as Gunner only has its normal attacks to generate PP, it has no ability to actually give you PP. Unless you're subbing Force, of course. Stylish Roll Art. Stylish Roll Arts is a good option if you cannot get a PA off, but remember to be in close range, otherwise it likely will not hit your target. Use only when you are unable to use a PA, as there are too many attacks coming your way and your PP is full. I do not suggest using it as a dump PA. Rising Dive. Rising Dive will increase your height off the ground. However, in the air, it will only neutralize your air, as the timing of the Rising Dive causes you to fall after Stylish, so you end up roughly where you started. And this makes it useless, because it just gives you neutral air and there's no actual benefit to using Rising Dive itself for damage or PP. Stylish Onslaught. As I said, I will be personally getting rid of this during my class reset, because Stylish Onslaught is kind of weak and it doesn't really contribute to much, and it can get you killed because of the way it abruptly stops you moving. It's useful in utility, but personally I just don't see the use for it. Intermediate. Attack close range. So Gunner has a 20% damage bonus when you attack in close range. It's important to remember this, to only attack within the orange circle, especially when you dump your Chain Trigger. Outside that though, it doesn't really matter. As long as your Chain Triggers are dumped inside the orange circle, you are likely to be doing a lot of damage anyway. So, do what you need to do to survive, but make sure your Chain Triggers are dumped inside that orange circle. That is my position on it. Of course, being inside the orange circle is important for maximizing damage. So, Intermediate Chain Trigger. So, after expending a Chain Trigger, it has a cooldown of about 2 seconds. In this 2 seconds, you can Stylish a couple of times to recover PP. This is part of the sustained rotation. However, You could also use a PA before the timer runs out to re-pop the chain trigger as soon as the cooldown is expended. It is important to do this to keep up DPS. However, it is also important to use the stylish to recover PP in duration, as you want to keep your PP up at a decent level. Gunner does not really care about dump rotation, because it is a sustained rotation class. Your chain trigger does more damage than dumping PA ever would, so it is just important to have enough PP to very quickly generate chain triggers as much as possible. So the more PP you have, it helps, but the goal is really to build up the chain trigger, so dumping doesn't really help. Point blank utility. As I said before, knowing when to quickly use your point blank to extend your chain trigger can be finicky. It is very hard to know. At the end of Bullet Rave, you do get some degree of hyper armor. This hyper armor can stop you from getting knocked down and allow you to finish the chain trigger. However, there is another reason to use point blank. If you are using the WASD keys to sprint around, you would have noticed that you can very accidentally knock yourself out of the sky by double tapping them too quickly, causing you to sprint. You can also use this to accidentally knock yourself out of Bullet Rave, as Bullet Rave allows you to move around a lot while you use it. This can help you dodge, but it can also cause you to end your chain trigger prematurely. So, you can use point blank to completely negate this for the most part. However, you can still knock yourself out of point blank doing this, so be careful with that. It is something that I personally struggle with, and will probably always struggle with it. But the sprint is too important to get rid of, so I make sure to keep it on and just try to deal with it and learn to overcome this issue. Bullet Rave cancelling. So, at the end of the Bullet Rave, you can charge the Bullet Rave up to quickly cancel the last attack to get a chain trigger off quicker. This is very handy, and you can also cancel Bullet Rave at most periods in time. It is important to note as well that a lot of Gunner PAs allow you to use a Rester during the PA, so you never have to stop attacking as Gunner. I'd like to go into advanced Gunner techniques, but there just really aren't any. Gunner isn't an overly complicated class. However, I will quickly talk about the rifle interaction, or, as we'll soon find out, lack thereof. Note, I do not have my rifle actually weapon bound to my PMG. The reason for this is because I use the Quintel PMG. Now, the 50% damage reduction isn't that useful for a gunner because you can basically avoid everything. But I prefer it personally because I do not play perfectly 100% of the time. There is an additional reason for it though, and the general reason is I prefer to do the same amount of damage to everything. I do not like having a weapon where it does more damage to bosses than it does to normal enemies. I notice such differences and it's frustrating to me. So, there are two things that I need to test here. One, does TMG actually scale up your spreadshot? And then the second thing is, does rifle increase your chain trigger? At least in this circumstance, the answer is no. It does not increase your chain trigger, and it can't spend your chain trigger either. But what about increasing spreadshot? Does TMG increase spreadshot? From what I can see, no. So, there is no interaction between the rifle chain trigger and spreadshot with TMG. Which is unfortunate because if Gunner could benefit from Spreadshot, it'd be very useful on Gunner because it is a melee class, whereas Rifle struggles to benefit from it, I feel, because it is a range class and Spreadshot you do need to get close in to actually use in the first place. Otherwise, let's move on to gearing. Gunner wants to build as much potency floor and potency as possible. However, you do not want to shirk on potency. Potency is your primary stat as a gunner. You don't necessarily want PP. PP will help you stay more sustainable, so I suggest getting up to 150 PP at a minimum. So, what augments do I actually recommend for gunner? Well, Alt Zekrata 3 is a good one. Gigas Precision, Tethys Soul, and I would always finish off with the Addy Deft Ra. Addy Deft Ra is a game changer for gunner, as it gives potency and potency flow like Alt Zekrata does, without the downside that it is vulnerable. You can use Dreadkeeper on a gunner, but I wouldn't personally. Gunner does not need the health or defense. On top of that, really do not need the sheer amount of PP that having 3 Dreadkeeper or 4 Dreadkeeper would give you. You're better off just going for El Domina if you are worried about health over Alt Zekrata, as El Domina will give you more damage than Dreadkeeper will. Of course your BP will be lower, but BP is not a true definer of how much damage you will deal. Otherwise, this has been my Gunner guide. I hope it was helpful to you, and I hope you know a little bit more about Gunner now. If you liked this video, please remember to like and consider subscribing. I've been RSV, and I will see you next time.